Good afternoon and welcome to our last meeting of February. It is hard to believe that it's almost March, but it is. We have hopefully several people watching us on television. We've got a few people in the audience tonight. The invocation will be led by myself, and respect to the flag will be led by Councilman Kyle Newton. Please rise. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the many blessings that you have put your hand on our community, especially our city. We ask that you give this public body, our council, the wisdom and the freedom to make decisions based on the good of our community and to do things that would be pleasing in your eyes. As always, Father, we ask that you protect our team members, our employees who are constantly in harm's way, in the first responders, our public works personnel, that you always protect them and by and large protect all our more than 600 employees. We ask that you look after us as we go forward to make Anderson the best community that we can be pleasing in your name. We ask all of these things in your name. Amen. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get into the body of our meeting, we do have want to take a pause for a recognition, special recognition, and I'm going to let Mayor Pro Tem Tony Stewart lead us in that. Tony?
All right. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. And as we're narrowing down the month of February, I know everybody, I want everybody to be mindful that it is Black History Month. And just wanted to talk a little bit about Black History Month. And a lot of things I didn't realize, but just wanted to share a couple of things, is that, you know, Black History Month began as Negro History Week back in 1926 by Carter G. Woodson. Carter G. Woodson was a scholar, an educator, a historian, and a publisher. It later became a month-long celebration in 1976. And the reason why the month of February was chosen Black History Month to coincide with the birthdays of Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln. While there have been many African Americans in this country that have paved the way for us, such as Rosa Parks, who's famous for the Montgomery bus boycott, Harriet Tubman, who helped free many slaves through the Underground Railroad, Jackie Robinson, the first African American Major League Baseball player, George Washington Carver, famous agricultural scientist and inventor, Ruby Bridges, the first African American child to desegregate an all-white elementary school in Louisiana in 1960. But it also has inspired others to continue on and to keep the history going and to inspire others. And tonight, what I'd like to do is I've invited several people out tonight and just want to recognize them for their continued support, the continuing leadership that these founders have brought for us and moving forward. And as I call your name, please stand up. I'd like to recognize Marion Terry. Marion is a community activist. He's a member of the Men at Work group. He spent his whole life coaching young people at the recreation department and still does it today. And he's inspired a lot of people to get into coaching. And he's inspired a lot through so many countless ideas I can't even name. But he has his family here tonight. And Marion, you'd like to recognize your family, have them stand as well.
Yeah, if you don't mind. I have my wife, my sisters, my niece, my grandson, all of them came to support.
All right. Please keep standing. Please stand. We also have members members of Asbury Memorial Church here tonight. I want to thank you for being here. Memorial Baptist Church here tonight. I want to thank you for all that you do here in the community. Also, Miss Lily Telford. Miss Lily Telford is a community activist on the south side and the east side. Miss Telford had done her blood, sweat, and tears through providing Thanksgiving Day dinners down at Toxaway United Methodist Church for many years, and Councilman Harvard was our gravy maker down there for all those Thanksgiving Day dinners that help feed the community. So, Ms. Telford, I just want to personally thank you for all that you do for this community as well. Herbert Pop Urban. Herbert Urban is the leader of the Eastside Concerned Citizens Group. He's a community activist as well. He's done so much for the East Side and continuing to try to drum up the support and just to make the neighborhood back the way East Side used to be many, many years ago. So, Herbert, I want to thank you for all you've done. And not only these individuals, but we also have one of our own, Dr. Beatrice Thompson. Dr. Thompson, please stand. And Ms. Thompson is an educator who's educated our children in the school district for many, many years and have inspired others to get into teaching. And she's been a great leader and continues to be a great leader for this community. So just wanted to kind of let the community know that while we've had all these founders that have paved the way, you know, for us over the many, many years, we have local people who have been inspired that continue to carry forth this legacy and continue and hopefully to pass it on to their grandchildren. So I'd like to give everybody a round of applause. Thank you all for coming.
And I'd like to give Councilman a round of applause. Yeah, wonderful thing. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you.
Well, hold on. Just and another, the first, we have our Honorable Mayor Terry Roberts. Hey, I was thinking about everybody else. Hey, first African-American mayor of the city of Anderson, and I hope that he inspires others to take after his lead to be mayor as well.
Thank you.
So,
Appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you. You guys are welcome to stay or you can leave. So, but we more than welcome you and glad to have you with us. The minutes of our January 27th meeting have been distributed. Have there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Not hearing any, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Have first by Mr. Newton, second by Dr. Thompson. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Those minutes of January 27 passed unanimously. We have one item of old business, and that item is request consideration of an ordinance to rezone 203 McCulley Street from RM10 multifamily residential to GC general commercial. Ms. McEwen?
I'll call on Mr. Maurice McKenzie, our Planning and Development Director, to present this item.
Thank you. As the mayor mentioned, this request is to rezone 203 McCulley Street from RM10 multifamily residential to GC general commercial. And the applicant is seeking to rezone this property, which is a corner lot. It's a vacant lot right now. And they wish to construct an electrician shop on the vacant parcel. So in order to do so, we need some sort of commercial zoning. Just down McCulley Street are some vacant parcels that are zoned RM10 multifamily residential. But across McCulley, across Murray, and behind this property are properties that are zoned GC general commercial. So that's really the predominant zoning classification that you see in this stretch of Murray Avenue. So this does front Murray Avenue, which is typically a commercial corridor. So the Planning Commission considered this at their February 4th meeting. They unanimously recommended approval of this. Staff recommends approval of this as well. If this is rezoned, then the applicant would submit building plans and site plans, which would have obviously the building plans along with landscaping, screening, parking, those type of regulations as well to be met. Any questions?
Good. Questions, comments? Ms. Roberts, Jeff Roberts?
Mr. McKenzie, is the applicant here tonight?
Not tonight.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Once we zone it to general commercial, are we, you know, I know there's other uses that could be utilized for this property, and are we pretty certain, you know, that this, what's gonna happen here, even with the applicant not being here tonight? And I guess I'm, you know, I know we've done a lot to try to fix up McCully Street over the years, and with housing, I would just hate to, for something that is not in the best desirable interest to go at that corner there, that, other than a business, could
Right.
liquor stores or, you know, whatever else, that may be someone wanted.
Well, as you know, with any rezoning, once it's rezoned, it runs with the land. But again, the applicant, this is what their proposal is. General commercial does have a list of various permitted uses. Retail is one of those. So it could be a number of retail uses. Again, shops such as this, it could be offices, it could be a number of things. But again, there are no guarantees down the road.
Are you at liberty to say who the applicant is?
I can look, one moment.
You know the person?
You know,
While he's looking, I have talked with this young man several times, and I think it's a good idea to place that there, because I think we talked about Franklin Street going that way, coming into the west side of town, being a commercial and residential area. And I've talked with some of the folk who are there on McCully, and they're very pleased with it. I think it'll be an asset.
and that's, I'm hoping it will be.
Yeah, hoping it's gonna be an asset.
Good.
James Sproul is the property owner. Yeah.
Good. Any other questions, comments?
I move that we pass this on the reading,
First reading?
final reading,
First reading.
First reading?
first reading, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. First by Dr. Thompson, second by the Mayor Pro Tem. Further comments, questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously on the first reading. Thank you. We'll jump directly into our new business, and our first item of new business is request consideration of a ordinance authorizing the City of Anderson to enter into an installment purchase transaction to finance the cost to the acquisition of the McDuffie Street parking garage. Authorizing the execution and delivery of various documents relating to financial transaction, including base lease agreement and a municipal facility purchase and occupancy agreement, and approving the issuance of a bond by the Anderson Public Facilities Corporation. Ms. McEwen?
We did have a work session prior to this council meeting, just prior to go over some of the instruments as part of the bond ordinance and this financing, but Ms. Margaret Martin, our finance director, will recap this for you.
Oh, it's on now. It's on now. Okay. So council did give approval to the McDuffie Street parking with the resolution in the fall to go forward using the installment revenue bonds. The project is estimated to cost $9 million. Funding would come from three sources: TIF funds of 1.3, hospitality funds of 700,000, and then the installment purchase revenue bond for an amount not to exceed $7 million. As David mentioned, we discussed this during our council work session today at 5. The installment revenue bond is a financing structure available to the city, and the debt is not subject to the constitutional debt limit of 8% assessed value. There's not a specific pledge of revenue, but rather the debt service is collateralized by the asset, in this case, the parking garage. City Council forms a nonprofit, Anderson Public Facilities Corporation, who issues the bonds and use the proceeds to construct the parking garage. The land is owned by the city and leased to the corporation pursuant to a base lease agreement. The city then makes annual payments to the corporation via the municipal facilities and occupancy agreement, and then they obtain a percentage of ownership of the parking garage with each payment. Once the final debt service payment is made, the parking garage will be 100% owned by the city, where the funding will be at an interest rate of 3.34 for annual average debt service of $484,000 a year for 20 years. Again, as a reminder, at the council retreat, we had estimated 3.75 and an annual debt service of $515,000. First payment for interest is due in September, with the first debt service principal payment due in March of 2021, and these will be paid from the general fund. So we are requesting approval this evening on first reading of this ordinance, authorizing the City of Anderson to enter into the installment purchase transaction to finance the costs relating to the acquisition of the McDuffie Street parking garage, authorizing the execution and delivery of the various documents relating to the financial transaction, including the base lease agreement and the municipal facilities purchase and occupancy agreement, and approving the issuance of the bond by the Anderson Public Facilities Corporation. That's a lot.
That is a lot, thank you. And I know we spent 45, probably 40 minutes or so talking about it in the work session, but I want to open it back up to, I think we left with a couple questions, and I think they got answered, but anything else, guys?
Mayor, this has been a project for a long time in the making, and this financial component of it. I think it was said early on in the, it's part of the broader development of the hotel site, but it is a tipping point for our downtown Anderson, and it's a good day that we move forward with this. I'm comfortable with the finance arrangement with this, with the installment revenue bond. So I move that we move forward.
And I second.
We have a first by Mr. Jeff Roberts, a second by Mr. Lockridge. Further discussion?
I'd just like to say, I think this is a good financing model because it allows the city to, to keep their GO bond limits in place so that we have the ability to move forward with other projects that the city council may see fit in the future.
Good. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Everybody involved, very, work done, appreciate it. You guys, thank you. We move right along with the second item of new business, and that is to request consideration of a contract for B. Thompson Park Improvement Project. Mr. McEwen?
This is a component of our recreation master plan and uses community development block grant funds as well, with a combination of some other funds. Mr. Bobby Bevel, our Parks and Recreation Director, will present this item to you. Mr. Bevel.
Thank you, Mr. McEwen. I also have Ms. Erica Kraft with me if you have some questions about the federal funding side of this. This request is the approval of a contract with AOS Specialty Contractors for the B. Thompson Park Improvement Project. This B. Thompson Park is a popular park. It was identified in our master plan. A lot of family reunions, birthday parties, daycares, church events use it. The enhancements to the park would include a new pavilion, 36-foot by 36, not a hexagon. I'm trying to think what
Octagon.
shelter that
I say a say boy.
that will have electrical outlets in it, just like we do at Greeley Park, Watson Park. We're trying to get one installed at DB Walker Park. The weather has not helped recently, but this is the same format that we have used at our other parks. It will also have expanded playground with additional playground equipment. The playground equipment will be interactive, sensory play equipment, musical instruments. They have what they call a zip-roo, which is sort of like a zip line, but you're enclosed in a swing, locked in kind of thing. So this is more interactive play. The existing playground equipment will stay. This additional equipment will be added. There will also be a pour and play rubberized surfacing at that location. This will be our first playground with that type of surface. This did qualify for CDBG funding. We put out bids on our city website, the Independent Mail, Skibo. We had a pre-bid meeting on January 22nd. Seal bids were received on February 5th. We had 2 bids, earth materials and grading from Anderson for $542,730, and AOS Specialty Contractors out of Lexington, South Carolina for $486,085. The existing funding will come from CDBG funds, where we had authority to use $325,000 toward this project. Of this total, we have already purchased the pavilion shelter. When we did the DB Walker bid, the shelter was 8 to 12 weeks out once you place the order. So we placed the order at the same time we did the DB Walker shelter. They are to arrive hopefully end of March, 1st of April. So we went ahead and purchased that and took it out of the contract. Leaves a remaining balance, $287,638, be allocated from CDBG funds. Hospitality funds will pay the difference in the amount of $198,446.66 toward the project. Land Plan and our staff reviewed the bids and recommend AOS Specialty Contractors for this job. I have talked to 2 or 3 of our playground companies. They have used AOS Specialty Contractors. They do a great job, and even Earth Materials very familiar with their work, so they are highly recommended, do a great job. Talked to a couple communities who use them on playground installs and expansions, and they're very pleased. So I recommend us awarding the contract to AOS Specialty Landscaping out of Lexington.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Bevel, questions, comments?
Yes, I have a question. The sidewalks that's going to be installed, I know the plan says to be determined on site. I know we had talked about one time trying to start tying in bike paths and walking along the flume area. Is the location of these sidewalks going to be in line when we do start doing that, fall in line with whatever that plan is that's out there?
The majority of that will be, we have to determine part of that concrete sidewalk will be from the parking area that's down there now to get to the playground surface, along with where the bike path will end up being, yes.
I know in B. Thompson Park, you have that real steep hill that goes up. Are we addressing that and kind of making it more manageable and more aesthetically pleasing? I know it's hard for our guys to cut that big bank, and is any of that going to be a part of this grading project to kind of help with the slope on it or anything like that?
We hope to improve some access to that, but in the future phase, that entrance will go away. And the parking and the entrance to the park will be on the other side of the flume. But that's in phase 2 kind of thing.
Ms. Chapman?
So I definitely agree that the park is in need of improvement, but I guess when I look at the numbers, almost 60% of it is for a playground surface that is almost 10,000 square feet. And that just seems incredibly large relative to a playground when you think about it relative to a building size, 10,000 square feet. And that's in addition to the gazebo is going to be another 2,000 feet when you get the footprint of it, or the footprint of that gazebo. I guess from a financial standpoint, it seems that 60% of it being used just for ground surface, not play equipment. I know that we need to have a surface that's durable and have a safe area for the kids to play, but the size of it seems very large.
Well, the synthetic, the rubberized material, whether it's pour and play or synthetic turf, is very expensive. It does prevent, as far as maintenance, as far as swing sets, and, you know, when you get what we use now with mulch and sand, you get a hole and those kind of things. It does prevent that. There is a 5-year warranty on the product kind of thing. It can be maintained in-house if we have to replace certain sections. We can be taught how to do that, but the initial part there, the borders of the playground come away. What you see now when we have playground borders, it'll be a curb type, and then it's rubberized material in that based on the critical fall zone where the equipment is. Some places will be deeper than other places based on the material or the equipment that we have in the critical fall zone. And then on top of that will be another rubberized surface mixed with the color that we particularly choose kind of thing. But it is very expensive in the long run.
And I appreciate it, and I know that safety is a big concern, because we've talked about that even from from the sun conditions. Like, we had mentioned that was part of what we were going to start doing. Is there any, I don't see any cost for shading, and that was an extremely expensive endeavor as well. So, and having a 10,000 square foot surface, and if we tried to start shading all that, it's going to be even more expensive. So I was not questioning that the cost is there. It's just the sheer size of it and the amount of area. Because I even had an alternative of using an artificial turf that I'm sure has a rubberized base or something underneath it, which saves $25,000. I don't know what the warranties are of that, but I'm just more talking about the size, the sheer size of the actual surface area. Was there any discussion, I guess, about the design side? Is that like, well, maybe we could
Submitted that with release.
because it's $28 a foot. So
When we submitted our request for release of funds to HUD, our department and the Recreation Department worked with our consultant to present the environmental record. And at that time, what was shared with us was pour and play. So when they sought to get authority to use the federal funds, pour and play was the type of material that was included in that environmental review record. And that's what they had authorized and released at that time, because that was what, I think when we were bidding it, that was all what was included in what the project description was. So I channeled that on to them, and that's what they blessed. So we stuck with the material that was in there.
again, I appreciate that. I'm not questioning the material.
Right.
I'm questioning the quantity of the material that makes that number 60% of the project budget.
Yeah. I can't speak on the size. I don't know. I just know about the environmental record. Do you know about why?
And I'll speak briefly to this too. You know, I think, thank you. A lot of what we do with our parks, you know, in the recent past and moving forward, is to plan for the future. You know, we do have, this is a very interesting surface. We do have plans for this park and other parks in the future. It's really, it doesn't take patching very well. So if you pour new additional areas of playground, that they're not necessarily as seamless. So, you know, you're looking at the whole play area of B. Thompson Park. This really encompasses that and helps us plan for adding additional equipment in the future. The other thing that we look at with parks, and Bobby Bevel's been, and his staff have been great at doing this, or, you know, look at future maintenance needs, look at additional really quality of life measures to add to these parks. You know, the city has had a certain level of playground in the past. I think the new Anderson demands a little nicer playground, nicer surface, and this provides that. It's again, like you said before, it's safer, but it's also very accessible as well. It provides more area of the park for folks that may have disabilities, children that come out to use the park that may have trouble getting around on gravel or on bare dirt. So
I appreciate all that.
Yeah.
I'm not questioning the quality of the project, the need for for upgrading the park. I'm simply questioning the quantity of less than 10, almost 10,000 square feet of play area, because I think the next thing we're gonna get back to is we're gonna need to shade the area, because that's what we just did on a previous.
That was my question.
And so having an area that large is gonna make this number grow even more when we start to shade it. Because I think if I remember, the shading was a couple $100,000.
177th for 3 parks.
Yeah, for 3 parks. But those 3 parks probably
We wouldn't shade the whole area.
equate to about this size park. So,
Can I ask a whole area?
Mr. Chapman, good point. Well taken, noted. Ms. Lockridge?
First of all, have we ever used this material in any parks that we have in the city? No. It's a brand new material. Okay. Since we haven't used this in any park, and we talked about the heat, you know, one of the things we did with the new shading material is we put the shading material over the playground equipment so that it wouldn't be so hot for the children. Since we've never used this material before, if we have a large open area and we pour this stuff, is it a hot material when you put your feet on it? I know that there are some materials that are cooler to the touch than other materials, like if you put your hand on top of a hot car in the summertime, it's really, really hot, or asphalt, it's really, really hot. What is this material like?
This material can get hot, as would synthetic turf, depending on what the temperature, how much sunlight, those kind of things plays into that. So yes, it can get very, very warm, just like we do with our mulch and some of the areas that we have now, kind of thing.
This is the same material they're using in Cleveland Park, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Exactly.
You know, we've personally taken our kids over there and they played on it, and you can see that it's
Good.
I think I don't think.
I don't know anything about it.
But I think, I guess what I'm hearing is, you know, the overall design of the park, that came from our master plan, which told us how big the area should be, right? So I think that's maybe going back to answer some of Mr. Chapman's question. I don't know. But,
Phase 2 of this, there's another shelter added to that park, a smaller shelter. There's the walking trail, the path, the bike path is part of that. There is parking across the flume that I think was 50 spaces. So there would be a lot of activity once the whole park is built, but the amount to do all that, we couldn't do at one time, kind of thing. So, you know, when we come back for the next phase, it would be an additional picnic shelter, some of those kind of things that would be added to this. Mr. Chapman, the other bidder was $390,000, I think, for that same material kind of thing. So it is the largest piece of that. But part of that was it was specified in the release of funds, what we asked for to pay for a shelter, playground equipment, playground surface. So it was designed, that money had to be used for that kind of thing.
Ms. Stewart?
And I hear what Mr. Chapman is saying as well, but again, I've ridden by B. Thompson Park many times over many years, and it's really packed over there, and you have very little space for playground, and I think, you know, 10,000 feet may sound like a lot for a playground, but it's probably one of the most utilized parks that we have in any of our neighborhoods, and compared to DB and everybody else, you know, this park is really, it doesn't have basketball courts, but it's a family atmosphere park, which they have a lot of birthday parties and everything. As far as the material, I've sent pictures to Bobby when I've been in Florida at some of the places that they had used the same rubberized material surface with no shade over them, and I was asking them, hey, when can we start doing this? Because when it rains, nobody can go down to DB Walker or Greeley because you've got mud holes and everything else. Well, this material is going to allow water to drain through it, and they can still play 2 hours after it stopped raining. You don't have to worry about mud holes or water standing there. But the only concern I would have is something that we talked about before. Maybe this could be in phase 2, as I'm starting to see from a safety concern, is when you've got the playground equipment, especially if you've got special needs, are we looking at putting fencing anywhere around any of our playground equipment, to kind of, that way if the parents are sitting over somewhere, they don't have to worry about their kids wandering off, going somewhere else, and I know that has been discussed, before, so I don't know where we stand on that, maybe it's in phase 2, but I know we've talked about that, I think at the last meeting when we talked about about the shade, structure that was brought up about fencing as well by one of other council members.
And we've got prices on shading the remainder of our playground, parks, along with fencing and surface kind of thing.
Thank
And I'm hoping that we can do a little bit of that at a time.
Mr. Harvey?
Real quick, Mr. Bevel, 10,000 square feet does sound like an enormous amount, and I'm not very good at looking at these. So the drawing in yards, how wide is it about? Is it like 20 yards wide and 40 yards long, or?
It's 9,700 and some square feet. So
The picture we're looking at, it looks like it's long and thin.
well, part of that is because of the location where the flume is, you can't go very much wider kind of thing. It is longer than it is wider kind of thing.
I mean, to me, 10,000 square feet sounds like a tremendous amount, but, I mean, looking at this, is, you guess,
10,000?
I can't see the little numbers, I guess that's feet. It's what?
That's square feet. That's your order.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So would it be like 30 yards by 30 yards? Or would it be 40 by
About 130.
70 yards long?
Not yards, feet.
Feet.
70 wide, 130 or so long.
So that's 25 yards, 22 yards wide, and 40
Length.
yards long? Is that right?
They're about 50 yards.
Yep.
It's about 2.5 times as long as it is wide.
Half of a football field, right, Frank?
Half a football.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this.
Have
I'd like to
have
say a little-
first by the Mayor Pro Tem.
In discussion. All right.
Need a first, we got a first, we need a second.
I'll second it.
I have a second by Mr. Chapman. Discussion?
Okay, discussion. I have really appreciated all the discussion concerning the B. Thompson Park. We've been waiting for that park to be improved, I would say. It's been there a while, but we've been waiting for the renovation and upgrade for a long time, so we're certainly happy that we're gonna work on that. So Bobby, when does that start?
I gotta get it approved first.
Go ahead, let probably get it approved. But anyway,
Mr. McEwen to sign a notice to proceed and then the paperwork, and hopefully, the main thing you need to do is, ask the good Lord for some dry weather, because
I know.
we
I know,
haven't
but,
do anything.
I do appreciate the discussion, and it was very, very good. The one thing I was concerned about, as Tony mentioned, the safety and this hill that comes down into that park. And the safety, even of cars coming around Cunningham Street, that's pretty close to, not a wide street. But is there anything that we can do to enhance the safety of the kids or the cars or whatever? And I know you're gonna move the parking area to the other side of the park, is that correct? The
In
parking cars.
In phase 2, yes. Right now, because of the cost, we're gonna let them park in the park now where we usually park.
Okay.
Hopefully, that we'll be able to do phase 2 in the near future, which would create the parking behind our Market Street building and access across the flume.
Yeah, because it is a well-used park, and the flooring that you're talking about putting down there is going to help even the elderly folk. A lot of folk use that park other than kids, and it's a good asset to the west side of town. So I'm excited about what you're going to do and how it's going to help the whole area, going down Market Street and going down Franklin Street. That's gonna enhance that whole area. So as soon as you can get started and get the money right, you can get started.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to see it soon. And I think that park will be even used more once people that have children with disabilities and wheelchairs see what's available there for them to use, kind of thing.
And it's right there by the flume, you know, we have all that problems with the flooding that we had about, what, a couple of weeks ago? It's there, and of course, we're talking about, well, trails coming around the west side of town, that's gonna enhance that. As you walk around, all around the city and come there at that area, that's gonna be an asset. And so, just wait for us to get started.
John?
I'd like to, just Dr. Thompson hit on it, but I'd like to remind everyone that, you know, not only is this a heavily used park, and it's evident by driving by and seeing just how many people are always out there, but number two, it's a trailhead to our future pathway project.
Yes.
Number three, it becomes a destination point as well from the other sides of town, once our pathways and bike paths and pedestrian walkways are completed. So I think it's a wonderful statement to make, and a good starting and finishing location
Good point.
outside of town.
Just one more thing, just to point out to everybody at home, you know, that even though while we are getting ready to hopefully approve this amount for about $486,000 or $500,000, that is coming from Community Development Block Grant Funds, which is a grant that come from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development to the city of Anderson, and from our hospitality tax, which is generated through people eating out in our restaurants. So it's not coming out of our general fund taxpayer dollars.
Jeff?
Who's providing oversight for the construction of the project? And the reason I'm bringing this up, this is a big ticket item for that playground surface, and we had a situation on another park where the concrete wasn't placed quite right and it had to be torn out and done again. So who's providing oversight?
Land Plan Group, that's part of their contract.
Good.
Okay.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Now you have to.
Our last item of new business is to request consideration of referral to the Planning Commission, a petition to annex and zone GC General Commercial 9.7 acres located at 3304, 3434, and 3472 Cinema Center. And this piece of new business is actually related to executive session. So if the council would please, I would, under item D, executive session, where we are discussing and negotiations incident to proposed contractor agreements, the receipt of legal advice, where legal advice relates to pending, threatening, or potential claims or other matters covered by the attorney-client privilege. So I would entertain a motion to go into executive session. First by Mr. John Roberts.
Second.
Second by Mr. Matt Harvard. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? We stand in executive session. And for those of you who are staying, I don't think this will take a long time if you want to come back in. I'd entertain a motion to come out of executive session. First by Mr. Lockhart, second by the Mayor Pro Tem. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we stand out of executive session. We're going to go back to the last new business agenda item, which is to refer to Planning Commission a petition to annex and zone to GC General Commercial 9.7 acres located at 3304, 3434, and 3472 Cinema Drive. Mr. McEwen.
Mr. Mayor and City Council, item B3 is regarding annexation. An agreement was signed with the owner of the property in June 2017. It's 9.7 acres. It's located right off Clemson Boulevard and the East-West Parkway. It's also known as Cinema Center. This is a referral to the Planning Commission that will meet and consider the zoning, and the zoning recommendation is general commercial, and that's consistent with this area as well. And also directs the city attorney to move forward with the annexation process.
Thank you, sir. Questions, comments?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a recommendation that we refer this to the Planning Commission and give the city attorney the authorization to sign the annex petition.
Second.
Have a first by the Mayor Pro Tem, second by Mr. Harbin. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Administrative briefing?
Okay, Mr. Stewart had to remind me just a second ago that we're about to roll into February. I gotta flip the calendar over, but this was our last meeting in February. We do have, tomorrow, Tuesday the 25th, Southeast Anderson Task Force meeting at 5:30 at the CF Reams Education Center. And then on Thursday the 27th, the Concerned Citizens of the East Side are meeting at 5:00 p.m. at the Anderson County Alternative School. And going into March, our next council meeting is scheduled for March the 9th at 6:00 p.m. in your council chambers. That's all I have for you, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Thank you, sir. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. First by Mr. Newton, second by Mr. Chapman. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We stand adjourned.